I first met David when we were putting a group together at the start of first year. My first impressions was he was pretty confident and outspoken, so he was put into a leadership role in the group. I got on well with him. He helped me with my confidence and getting into the group setting. But he did make awkward and inappropriate jokes sometimes, but I didn't really mind because that was my sort of humour, so I didn't really question it.
He was really into memes, and he basically used them to express what we realised were actually his views and not just jokes. This was confirmed on a night when we went to the student bar after we finished some group project thing. We just went for a quick drink. In the day he was wearing a shirt and jeans, but he insisted on going home to get changed into something that he said was more him. He came back 20 minutes later in camouflage pants, hiking boots and a black t-shirt. He went over to the bar to get a drink, and when he was away, a girl came over and she said, "Who's your friend?" Because my friend thinks he's fit. I asked, "Which one's your friend?" And that's when I realised that the camo pants might be sending out the wrong sort of ideas because, well, her friend was a male. I found it funny, and when he came back I told him thinking he'd just laugh it off. But he didn't. He completely lost it. It was like he felt humiliated. He stormed over, mumbling to himself that he was going to knock the lad out, but luckily he'd already gone.
When I first met David, I liked him. You know, he was Tyler's friend, so I just automatically assumed he was my friend as well. I mean, I thought he was a bit rude and obnoxious because he was really loud and he would talk over like everyone as though what they had to say didn't matter. But I didn't really think anything massively bad about him, really.
He often spoke above everyone and made it clear to the group that he was in charge and that he was the strongest. And you didn't want to question him. If you did, they'd make a threat of physical violence.
Tyler and David started going to the gym together a few times a week, and I was really happy about it because Tyler finally had a friend that wasn't just me or Toby. And when he came to university, all he really wanted was to make friends, and I know that he was scared of people not liking him. So to be able to see him hanging out with David, it made me happy.
The process was quite gradual rather than a sudden exposure. I do believe he was trying to influence me like he had done with others before, be that online or in person. He would always say stuff with a layer of irony over it, but I'd just laugh it off because it wasn't meant to be serious. But there was this implication that I knew what he meant when he was being ironic. Like, I knew his true meaning. And so it did get to that point where he'd make these jokes around me and I'd know exactly what he meant.
I realised that David had extremist views the first night I met him. I went to the bar to get a drink, so did he.
What are you getting? Nah, I'm paying. That's what a man's for, right?
Maybe if it was 100 years ago.
Take it you don't respect tradition.
It's not my tradition.
Fair enough. We'll get there. Although, this might tempt you.
You're joking, right?
Why would this be a joke?
Why wouldn't it be?
Because the best card you can have, obviously.
Obviously you don't know much about cards then, do you?
And you do.
Workers' party. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I figured. You're probably one of those that believe there's more than two genders.
Yeah, I do. And to add to that, I'm a proud bisexual.
Oh, really? Another attention-seeking degenerate, then?
By the end of the night, I realised that I couldn't tolerate him. Well, maybe I could have if he kept his views to himself and was actually a decent guy. But as the night went on, he started getting a bit creepy with me. He kept trying to touch me and would sit and stand really close to me and had his arm around me, even though I made it clear that I felt uncomfortable. At the end of the night, once he left, I told everyone how it made me feel unsafe. I remember it was only really Catherine who was listening to me.
He called Charlie a degenerate, and when she told me, I got really angry about it. I couldn't understand why Tyler would be friends with someone like him.
Can't really explain it that well because it was quite a while ago now. But I remember saying really strange stuff to me whilst we were exercising, like on the bikes and stuff. I'd just be focusing on the exercise and not pay attention. I'd just nod along and agree with him. We did have some normal conversations and stuff, but there was jokes, and these jokes got gradually less jokey as time went on.
The rest of us didn't really realise just how close Tyler and David had become. Had even made their own separate group chat on Discord with just the two of them in, because apparently they didn't have any faith in the rest of us. Tyler never really spoke around the rest of the group unless he had David's approval, and he didn't really speak unless he was in agreement with David. I don't really know what was said in that group chat, but whatever it wasn't good. For example, one thing we did learn about was David's obsession with the Romans, which I always thought was a bit strange for an 18-year-old. This obsession centred around this red emblem with the letters SPQR on it. I later found out that this SPQR thing was something that white supremacists used. After a bit of Googling, I found out that people like Mussolini used very similar things to veil their views.
David was essentially the only friend I'd speak to regularly, and I'd act differently in front of other people when I was with him. His views were never really exposed, and I tried to hide them as best I could, because I'd be ostracised if people found out I was mates with him. He told me my mates weren't good for me and I should stop talking to them, but I found that hard to believe. But I couldn't help but agree with him, and I said he was right. I felt it was the first mate I made in a long time, and I was kind of desperate to keep that going.
I started picking up on it when I noticed that Tyler would rush to his defence and would say he's harmless every time we went to criticise him. This happened more and more leading up to the incident. I think I thought he was just sticking up for a mate. I don't think I realised how deep it was until it was too late.
There was this one day when I was in my room and Tyler had just got in from being in town with David, probably to get a KFC or something, and he had a plastic bag in his hand, so I asked, with intrigue, what had he bought? How's town? What'd you get?
Town was busy.
So what'd you get?
Just stuff, nothing really.
Present for me, perhaps?
You wish, unless you want a pen.
Oh, there's more than pens in there. Come on, what'd you get?
Seriously, it's fine, it's nothing.
Okay then.
Fine, I went to Waterstones and I got a book.
Oh, is it actually a present for me?
No, it's a present for me.
Not what I was expecting. Why have you got a Bible?
To read.
You can read anything. Why the Bible?
I've just never read it and I thought I should.
But you're an atheist. You've always said you're not religious.
Yeah, but I owe it to God.
You owe it to God? What?
He created everything. The least I could do is read the Bible.
This really doesn't sound like you. Where's it all coming from?
I just want to feel connected to him, okay?
Okay, fine. Forget I asked. Just don't bring me into it, okay? Now, Tyler didn't have a lot of money to begin with, so why was he buying a brand new Bible? And what shocked me the most, I think, was the fact that he had told me that he wasn't religious. And I've got nothing against people who find comfort or have faith in religion, but the Tyler that I knew was not that person. So the sudden change, it made me a bit uneasy.
At the time I bought the Bible, I was struggling with coming to terms with what I actually thought, opposed to what David was telling me to think. It was a sort of desperate attempt to try and find some sort of meaning. I didn't actually read it. I'd always considered myself an atheist, but I knew religion could help some people. And David, well, he was a Christian, so I thought it would help me understand him more. I didn't really get why Catherine was questioning me so much. I thought it was harmless. Genuinely, I thought it was harmless. Our karaoke night actually started off on a good note. Deadlines were finished and we could relax for Christmas. We had pre-drinks and then just headed on out. And Tyler and David and Nathan, they came and joined us afterwards. They got a table next to ours.
The night began the way every great night does, with David talking very loudly about how much he hates gays. Well, that pissed me off. There were two openly gay guys sat at the table and I'm bi, so I thought I'd tell him, get him to shut up. That night specifically, I remember being with everyone, Catherine, Toby, Charlie, etc. And David was there too. He was with someone else from the course, Nathan. I just sat with David most of the night, having a wee drink with him, getting more and more drunk as the night went on, listening to him chat.
David and Tyler were just talking privately for most of the night. And from what I could see, the conversation was very much one-sided. David was talking and Tyler was just sort of not really responding, just sort of acknowledged them with head movements. At one point, David turned to me and he said, "Them two over there are disgusting." That's when I realised he was pointing at Toby and Matthew. I said, "What, Tyler's friend?" And that's when he told me they were gay.
At a point, he confronted Toby with an edited photo of him in a gas chamber.
Should I?
Go on then. At the time, I thought it was a joke, as something funny about him being gay. Obviously not.
The next thing I remember was Toby coming over to my group's table and just slamming his drink down and walking off towards the toilet.
Toby, wait. What happened?
Him. David, he happened.
What did he do?
And Tyler, he just laughed.
Why? Yeah, but what did he do?
Why did he do that? Why did he laugh?
Toby, calm down and tell me what's wrong.
David got up a picture of me edited into a gas chamber. He was pulling the lever and Tyler just stood there laughing. What kind of friend does that?
What the hell? I'm not shocked, David, but Tyler.
14 years of friendship, and that's what I mean to him.
I honestly do think it's just Tyler following David's lead.
Why was he laughing?
David's not the type of person you can challenge. He can be aggressive when he wants to be.
It's him or me. It looks like he's already picked him.
He told us that David had shown him an image of him edited into a gas chamber, and that the whole time he was showing it, Tyler just laughed.
I feel guilty because I was only there for bits and pieces. At the time, I'd just met someone. I really liked them because I was fixated on them. So my mind is a bit, fuzzy. But I remember going to the bar to get a drink and coming back to find the whole group angry and upset. They told me about David's fascist ways and the fact that he tried to threaten one of my friends. I wanted to kick his ass.
Everyone was really angry, so we just decided to leave, and we ended up actually at Matthew's flat. Everyone except David and Tyler. But I felt really sick, and I just wanted to talk to Tyler and find out what had happened. So I left, and when I got back to my flat, David and Tyler were sat on the sofa watching some stupid show about what it means to be British, which they turned off when I walked in. Can one of you explain what happened earlier with the photo and Toby?
Toby needs to learn how to laugh.
He's supposed to be your best friend and you just stood there and laughed.
He's starting to realise he shouldn't make friends with those kind of people.
And what do you mean, those kind of people?
The ones who make the wrong choices in life. You know at least 3.
Sounds like you're stuck in the medieval times.
Not medieval. I just educate myself. Think about it. We're in Britain surrounded by people who aren't British. Where's the logic in that? It's only right if Britain is for the British.
Toby's British? How did we get from his sexuality to his nationality?
It's the same thing. We're going down the wrong paths. Look at you. You're at university when you should be at home being the perfect wife.
I'm 18 and I'm here at university, and I'm sorry that a strong woman terrifies you.
Far from. I know where a woman's place is. So does Tyler.
I beg to differ. He's always been fine and supportive of my feminist views.
Well, that's not what he's been saying to me.
Enlighten me then.
I'll leave you two to talk. Tyler, speak to you later.
His views were British, white, straight males were superior to everybody else, that a woman's place was to serve her husband, and to have babies, that only fully British people should be in Britain, and that being gay was a choice and the wrong one, and that God created us all and we should follow his rules set in the Old Testament.
Wow. Thanks for sticking up for me. Can't believe he thinks you've got those views. Tell me you don't have those views.
He's not wrong though, is he?
You're messing with me, right?
Why would I be messing with you? Everything he said makes sense.
He literally just told me that I shouldn't be at university, that I should be a stay-at-home mum. He took a picture of your best friend and put it in a gas chamber. What about that makes sense?
What doesn't make sense about that? Women are put on the planet to be mothers, to raise kids. The men, they work, they provide. The gas chamber photo, it was a joke, a laugh. We all have laughs, don't we? So don't know why you're getting so annoyed about it.
It's not a joke when there's vicious intent. It hurt Toby and you just laughed.
Toby chose to be gay. He made that choice. He has to live with the consequences. You know, after he told me, I can't look at him the same.
I can't even look at you right now.
Come back. We're not done here. Open the door.
Please just go. Leave me alone.
Just open the door. We need to talk.
We're not talking until you've calmed down.
I'm calm.
Please go. You're scaring me.
How am I scaring you?
I went to bed. About an hour later, I woke up to some sort of muffled sound. I get a text from my friend that lives on the middle floor, and she asks me if it's Catherine. I opened the door to try and hear better, and it sounded like crying. I then checked my phone again, and I've got a load of videos on Snapchat sent from Catherine. I open them, and it's of Tyler looking really angry. And he's talking about how he thinks Toby chose to be gay, and he's wrong for doing it, and that women shouldn't get the right to vote. I remember thinking, what the actual fuck?
Charlie came over and I just cried to her all night. And she stayed with me until a friend from home came to stay the night with me. But I really didn't get any sleep that night.
I wish I knew what was going on at the time, so I could have tried to step in. It's been 3 years and it still makes me so angry. Poor Catherine, bless her. She was so upset and scared, and I don't blame her. It was terrifying.
At the time, I did believe that those were his views. You know, he seemed so sure that that's what he believed. And the morning after the karaoke session, he was adamant that that is his views. I mean, he even said that he was scared because he could get into trouble for what he believed.
It's weird because I think I've pushed all the memories of that night to the back of my head, and just talking about them, it just brings all the emotion back. I wish I'd done more to help my friends at the time. There's so much stuff I'd like to say to David about how he made them feel. But that was then. And this is now.
In the next couple of days, he started to become his old self again, and he even admitted that they weren't really his views and he didn't know what had happened. It was after that I realised he had been radicalised.
I feel like we never really got to see the real Tyler over those few weeks. At uni, Tyler was always very quiet, and so we never really got to hear his actual thoughts. David always spoke for him, sometimes to an extreme. I think Tyler just wanted a friend, and David realised this and just sort of latched onto him and became what I can only describe as possessive. Tyler couldn't speak without David's approval, and he was told exactly what to think about certain people. It wasn't a friendship, in my opinion. David genuinely acted as if Tyler was just some of his property and that he shouldn't think for himself.
The damage felt like it was irreversible at the time. I tried to apologise, but I knew it might not be accepted. I understand it might take a while for people to accept it, so I started focusing on myself. I tried to fix myself and cut ties with David.
It's not always been like that. I mean, him and Toby have been best friends for years. I can't help think that he's had that feeling towards him his whole life. So yeah, I think he was radicalised. But those people in that position, they're vulnerable. They need help, support, therapy. But I do think he should take some responsibility for the fact that he openly hurt his best friend and girlfriend at the exact same time. I understand that he was a victim of the abuse and manipulation, but I don't think it's an excuse for hurting the people like that.
My relationship with Catherine didn't recover for a long time. Well, in my perspective anyway. I get it. I totally understand after what I did. We did try and make things work. Catherine helped me get the courage to go see a counsellor and cut ties with David.
I can't be the bigger person. I can't forgive Tyler for what he did to Catherine and Toby. They're still my closest friends. I had to sit and watch the aftermath of Tyler's actions towards Catherine. She was traumatised. Physically traumatised of him. And even when Tyler did de-radicalise himself, fair play for him for doing that, he still managed to fuck her about in other ways. And that scumbag, fascist scumbag David, yeah, I don't forgive him either. But I can't forgive Tyler for the hurt he put my friends through.
After the whole situation, it took me longer than I'd care to admit to get over it. It was such a hard thing to digest and to understand. I felt like I didn't really know Tyler, and the next few weeks were filled with a lot of learning and understanding each other. We had to build bridges together, and he had to build bridges with everyone else. He worked really hard to sort it out with everyone, which I respected. I can forgive what happened, but not the way he approached me about it. He was the victim, and some people got through it and some didn't. Now, me and Tyler aren't together anymore, but we're still really good friends. I've got his back and he's got mine. You know, after everything we've been through, that's never going to change.